Not every retro handheld needs to be a powerhouse. Sometimes you just want something cheap, simple, and fun. Budget retro handhelds are everywhere, but most of them either cut too many corners or cost too much for what they offer. The TrimUI Smart Pro was one of those devices. At launch, it felt unfinished and overpriced. But then it's dropped to just $55, and with new firmware updates, it might actually be a hidden gem and may finally be the best budget retro handheld. On paper, the TrimUI Smart Pro isn't that special. It's powered by an all-winner A133 Plus, a quad-core chip that's about on par with other budget retro handhelds. PS1 games run great in it, but Dreamcast, N64, and PSP are a mixed bag. It's got 1 GB of RAM, 8 GB of internal storage, and a 5-inch 720p display, which, at this price, is a standout feature. The 5,000 mAh battery gives you 4 to 6 hours of playtime, which isn't bad at all. But while the hardware is basic, the software updates and custom firmware have completely changed the experience. If you tried the TrimUI Smart Pro at launch, you probably weren't impressed by its stock OS. But custom firmware like CrossMix OS has completely changed the game. It's way more polished, supports OTA updates, screen recording, and ported PC games, and even lets you tweak performance settings easily. Game Boy, NES, SNES, Genesis, and PS1 runs perfectly. Dreamcast, N64, and PSP, mixed results. Some games run fine, others struggle. If you want to play Celeste, Sonic Mania, or TMNT, Shredder's Revenge, this is one of the cheapest ways to do it. One major issue is the Wi-Fi is only 2.4 GHz, which means game streaming is pretty bad. It works, but expect some lag. Let's talk about how this thing feels to use. The D-pad is solid but firm, meaning no accidental diagonals. But it takes effort to press diagonals on purpose, so fighting games might feel a little off. The face buttons are great, clicky, and well-spaced. The stacked shoulder buttons are fine, but the triggers feel mushy. However, the biggest letdown is the analog sticks. They're Vita style, so they don't click, meaning no L3R3, and have limited range. Certain inputs randomly don't register in some games, which could be a software issue. That said, this thing is lightweight, compact, and ridiculously pocketable, making it easy to carry around. For a $55 handheld, the screen is seriously good. It's 5 inches, 720p, and looks sharp and vibrant. Compared to other budget handhelds, it's one of the best displays at this price point. And because of that resolution, it handles integer scaling well, making retro games look sharper. Game Boy Advance looks fantastic, and even widescreen hacks for PS1 and Dreamcast shine. The only downside is that it's a fingerprint magnet, but a screen protector can help with that. For $55, the TrimUI Smart Pro is one of the best budget retro handhelds you can get. The screen is fantastic, the build is solid, and with custom firmware, it's a huge improvement over launch. That said, it's not perfect. The analog sticks are questionable, high-end emulation is hit or miss, and the speaker placement is awful. But that's all you can expect for a $55. If you're looking for a cheap handheld for Game Boy Advance, PS1, and some light Dreamcast and PSP gaming, this is one of the best out there.